Okay, following on from the syntax explanation, let's have a look at the VLOOKUP in action in a number of different sheets just to see how we can make use of it. So making use of the VLOOKUP_sample, and the first sheet here is simple, and you'll see it's set up with some list of items, their price, quantity, a category, tax rate column that is currently empty, and then a calculation on the tax, which is the tax rate, times the quantity times the price, and then the total, which is effectively quantity times the price minus whatever tax is due. What we're going to do is place a VLOOKUP in here, uses this column here as the criteria, so in this case food for the first line, comes across to our lookup table over here, which I've highlighted in yellow, down the first column to find food, and return the value in column 2. In this case is 0, that 0 comes back across and gets placed in this cell here. So the syntax is equals VLOOKUP, open brackets, criteria is this cell here, comma, the table array, the lookup table, is these cells here, comma, col index num, so that's which column value are you wishing to bring back. I'm wishing to bring back the second column value, so that's this column here. So I just type a 2, comma, and then false for an exact match. It must find the correct tax category, close brackets, and return, and it gives me a 0, because food has a tax category value of 0. I could then take this formula and drag it to the bottom. However, if I do that, it will move the reference to the lookup table. So I must first fix that absolutely by placing my dollars in there. So I highlight the cells and then my little keyboard shortcut of F4 to dollar it up. So it dollars up the start and the end point of the table. I can then double click to bring that formula down. And hey presto, clothing is producing my 0.25, which is 25%, and food is producing a 0. Let's just format that as a percentage, and we can see the same formatting as we get in the lookup table. And because that's a formula, any changes made over here in the lookup values are reflected in our resulting table. So say for example, government decides to charge a tax on food, perhaps just 10%. I change the value there to 10%. That then feeds in to all my lookups, which then feeds into the tax value and therefore feeds into the total. So that's equals VLOOKUP. Criteria, which is the text value of this cell here. The lookup table, I'm taking that criteria to. I bring the criteria across here. We always look up in the first column. So I'm looking for the match of food in this case in that first column. The 2 tells me to bring back the value that's currently sat in column 2, but on the same row as my looked up value. And then the false at the end here tells me it has to find food. It can't find foo or foods. It has to find food, spelled F-O-O-D. If so, then it will carry out the whole lookup. So that's the lookup in the simple sheet. Let's move into the month names and look at another lookup. Now in here we have some dates and some sale values. And what I'd like to do here is work out the month of that date, effectively. Now I could do that just by copying the dates across and formatting the cell, but that cell would then still contain the date, and I'm just interested in the text value of the month. Now there isn't a nice built-in function to do that, but we can use a lookup to do it. So what I've done is I've created a sheet here called months, 2 columns in there, the month number that we can find out from a function, and then the month name in the second column. I've also then named this range this time as months. So we can see a named range in work in our formula then. Back in month names, so I want the month to appear here. So it's an equals VLOOKUP. Don't forget the V standing for vertical because the lookup table is vertical. What's the value I'm looking up? Well, it's not actually that cell. It's a function called month of that cell. So find out the month number from the date of the sale, comma. What's the table array, the lookup table? Well, that's my named range, so I just need to type that in. Months, comma. Which column would I like to bring back with me once I find a match for the correct month number? I'd like to bring back column 2, and it needs to be an exact match. Return. And I get told that that's January, which it is. If I double click that down, no need for dollaring up this time because the month's name is already effectively holding the dollars. It is an absolute reference in itself. I can just bring that formula down, widen the column, and we find that 12, that's December, that's no problem. 11, that's November. 2, that's February. So the month lookup works fine. So we've used in there a function within the criteria section to find out the month number of that cell. It's that month number that then takes us to our months range. It's actually on a separate sheet, but it's named so it can find it. Look down the first column again for the correct month number and bring back the value that is currently sat in the second column into this cell. And it's got to be an exact match for that month number. Can't be close, can't be 1.5. And we see our month appear. So that's the second use of the VLOOKUP, this time using a named range. And our final little example is a multi-column option. I've kept the lookup table in the same sheet so you can see how things work. Over here is our expenses claim, and we'd like to type in the destination that we've gone to. So on the 3rd of January, we go to New York. And if we have 3 nice little VLOOKUPs in here, here and here, we'll be able to go with New York across to the destination table and bring back the relevant values for the mileage, the parking, and the lunch. So let's place a VLOOKUP in here, equals VLOOKUP, open brackets. The lookup value is the destination cell, in this case New York to start with, comma. The table array, the lookup table, this is our lookup table, so we can highlight that, comma. Which column index num would you like to bring back? So we always look down the first column, have to find a match, so there's our New York. Which of the other 3 values would you like to return? Well, this is the mileage cell. So I want the 1, 2, 3, 4th column. So I place the number 4 in there. And again, for the moment, it's got to be an exact match. So the word false at the end. When we press return, 600 miles appear here, which is $300 on expenses. What about car parking? Equals VLOOKUP, New York, comma. In this lookup table, comma. This time we're looking for the parking, which is actually in the 3rd column. Don't forget, column 1's the lookup column. Column 2, column 3. So column 3, and false at the end there. That's $20. And then the lunch equals VLOOKUP. Again, we're taking that first value, looking up in this table, and the lunch is actually in column 2. And return. So when we go to New York on the 3rd of January, 600 miles, $20 parking, $25 lunch, comes out $345. If we'd gone to Washington instead, return, you can see the values respond. Once those formulas are in place, just like any other formula you've ever built in Excel, they respond to any changes of the fed-in values. And the values that can be fed into a VLOOKUP are the criteria and values in the lookup table itself. These values here can change. If we dollar up our table reference, we can then take that formula and drag it to the bottom. Let's put our destinations in. A couple of Los Angeles and a couple of New Yorks. That's got dollars in. Go to the bottom, it fills itself in. Same with this one. Dollar up. Replicate to the bottom, and all the parking values feed in. Same for the lunch. Dollar up. Down to the bottom. We widen this column. We then see our total expenses claim for January of $15,330. Any changes to the destination will change these values, therefore the totals. Any changes to the claimable amounts. Just narrow that so we can see it. So if, for example, New York, I'm going to say it was moved, but it wasn't moved, I moved, so New York's further away, 800 miles, return, that then feeds in wherever we've been to New York, and we get an 800, we get an 800. Could even be that we get a bigger allowance for lunch, $50, and that will feed into where we've been to New York, $50 lunch, $50 lunch. In this third example, we've used a lookup table. We've used 3 lookup formulas to bring back 3 different columns from our lookup table. As long as you make sure that you're looking up the correct criteria in column 1, you can then bring back any one of the other columns along that same horizontal plane, so to speak. That's 3 lookup examples in there. One in simple, using straightforward internal lookup table. The month's name one using a named range. And you can see that that works just the same syntax. Look up the criteria in the lookup table. Which column would you like to bring back? And currently we're dealing only with a false match, so they've got to be exact. So the value you're looking up in that first column must be exactly as it exists in that first column. And we have a number of uses there for VLOOKUP.